the events that happened last week in Yemen with the military coup, what kind of impact do you think that could have on already the region that is facing a little bit of instability with ISIS? What do you think the implications are with the results of what happened in Yemen?
Well, what's happening in Yemen is very similar to what's happening in other parts of the Middle East. Now there is an instability. There was a major earthquake, if you will, after the war in Afghanistan and especially in Iraq. So the political systems are being challenged internally, and the power struggle emerges. There has been different groups in Yemen vying for power, and they are now in the surface challenged the authority, and they were successfully toppled the current government. There are different implications of this thing. One, we can definitely say that this contributes to the instability in the region, but it is not by itself meaningful. It is a result of the instability of the region. The elements that are vying for power are quite interesting. The traditional elements like the sectarian violence, for example, the Shiites versus the Sunnis. But at the same time, there are tribes, there are tribal powers vying themselves, positioning themselves for power. The tribal rivalry is not that important in the sense that it could spill over the different countries. But the sectarian divisions have the potential of inflaming a broader conflict in the region. For example, the Shiites are in power at this point, if you will, if it's not an established power, but somehow they push the government out. And we know that Iran is trying to insert its authority, and on the other side you have Saudi Arabia. And this is a very oil-rich region, and Yemen is very strategically located for trade routes, for oil, and also Yemen has a base for Al-Qaeda. So all these things were combined. The instability in Yemen is extremely important than different parts of the Middle East. But it is definitely only a little portion of it, and we see that in ISIS affairs too.
Now, with what happened in Yemen, could you see maybe with all the group, like you said, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the Shiites, could you see maybe the Islamic State dipping their hands or trying to get into that?
Definitely. Al-Qaeda was a base in there too. The ISIS is fed by the instability in the region. Now, this ISIS is exceptional in the sense that in such a small time period, it controlled the huge territories. Now, historically, movements like ISIS emerge after this kind of major wars and regional instabilities. Throughout Islamic history, this has been so. But they emerge in a period of time, not this significant speed. And what makes ISIS threat exceptional is that not only the speed, but also these radical elements, religious elements, usually emerge within one country. Now, ISIS controls territories that belong to two major countries in the Middle East. So in that sense, ISIS is quite exceptional. And ISIS ideology is not limited to a certain territory. They claim a caliphate, that is to say, Islamic territories and beyond, which includes Yemen. So they will definitely try to expand any which direction they can go, which is a major threat. But it is hard to believe that they will succeed in that. So in that sense, they will be there for a foreseeable future. Perhaps will be contained. I think it will take time for ISIS to dissolve. It might morph into something different, but it will definitely, the elements, the potential will be there not only in where they are right now, but perhaps in Yemen. That's why it's quite important to have a stable regimes and governments in the Middle East.
Now, you made a quick mention of it, the history. Throughout time, there have been groups that have followed up major wars, like you said. Where does, and I heard you say it briefly about the time and speed, the short amount of time it's taken ISIS to grow. Where does ISIS stack up historically, say, in terms of, say, the growth of Al-Qaeda or something like that?
As far as Western public opinion concerned, Al-Qaeda's development could be followed with a naked eye. The speed of ISIS is such that it's hard to follow them, and the predictability element of ISIS is quite different than Al-Qaeda, in my opinion. It is so hard to predict in what direction and what they will do next. Usually, these kind of radical organizations, you can follow what they can do. For ISIS, compared to earlier movements like Al-Qaeda, but I can go even centuries before for radical movements, was that this is not so, and it somehow morphs into a different form, and they can adjust quite well, and they're quite well trained, and there are many unexplained features of this movement. In time, hopefully, we will learn where they learn how to use these weapons and how they get these weapons, and then we can assess it in a more sober way.
Now, let's say just people maybe living in the United States, they have family overseas, they're sitting here in the United States, they're seeing what's going on and where they're from, where their family's from. I guess on a more personal note, what would you tell someone who was like maybe looking to make an impact over there or was worried about their family?
People are anxious. Well, I'm one of them. Not in Yemen, but in the region. I have a family, and people are worried. They don't know to what direction this movement go and how harmful it will be, and what would what's next. They don't know. I think it's a personal way to deal with these things. I mean, I cannot advise anyone to do X, Y, Z because it's all different. Where you're from, what kind of family connections you have to the region. The best way to deal with this or understand what to do next is to consult with the family members that are living in that location. So I can give one advice to someone from Turkey, from Iraq, but could be quite different in Yemen. So the best way to deal with these things for people living overseas and looking back home and not to know what to do is to consult and to communicate with them. And usually things are not as dark as, there are always ways to deal with it. But the best way to learn how to deal with it is to talk to people who are exactly in the location that they want to go.
Now, just one last question, and this is more so about what happened yesterday with the direct threat to President Obama, and then also I believe it was Belgium and France, among others. Would you say that these threats need to be taken seriously?
Any threat needs to be taken seriously. They have the potential. I don't believe that they can carry out those really, like cutting the head of President Obama is not possible. But the intended effect is there. They are trying to do something spectacular, and they accomplish that by you asking me that question. So they have actually accomplished their goal. So they want people to talk about them, advertise them. This helps them to recruit. But any threat of that sort should be taken very seriously. That doesn't mean they can. I don't believe they can carry out those threats. But at least they dare to do that.
I thought that was interesting that you just brought that up about how just me asking you the question is their, so to speak, goal.
Mm-hmm.
What do you? I guess probably the next question would be, how do you stop that? Does the news media almost have to ignore?
No, you do what you need to do. I mean, that's the name of the game, and they accomplish their goals.
How can you almost, I don't know how to say other than stop them from accomplishing their goal of getting out there, their recruitment?
This is only one way of doing it. There are different ways of doing it. They do some other spectacular events to recruit. The way to do again, you have to dry the swamp as opposed to just killing the fly. So by you not asking me this question is killing a fly. The best way to deal with this thing is to stabilize the region. And this external pressure and external interference in the region did a huge harm and caused a major earthquake. They did not fix the problem. They contribute to the ongoing problems, and they magnified it. So that has to be stopped now. Somehow the region needs to be stabilized. Once the region is stabilized, that's the only way to deal with the elements like ISIS. But ISIS just one example. I don't take ISIS seriously in the grand scheme of time, because if ISIS is gone, something else would come up. Not only in the Middle East, in different parts of the world too. It is caused by the instability and the poverty and the suffering of the people. And at the present, Middle East has been going through a very painful times. It's at least 2-3 decades like this, and it's so easy to recruit. And not only in the Middle East that they can recruit from overseas, people who are humiliated by external forces, whatever they may be. They feel obliged to go and fight for this ridiculous ideology that shows no respect to human lives. So these we have to dry the swamp first, so that we don't have to worry about you not asking me these kind of questions. You should ask those questions. In fact, if you don't ask, there could be perhaps another reason for them to push these things away. They can control what you can ask, which that's not what we want.